The Sun have got an interesting story on Marcus Rashford, who we know is going to dominate the January window.
Yeah, he's going to be a big name this month, no doubt about it. And on paper, in the papers, on paper, this is a transfer that sort of makes sense. A potential swap deal, dramatic swap deal, shock swap deal, call it what you want, between Victor Osimhen and Marcus Rashford. Victor Osimhen out of favour at Napoli, he's on loan at Galatasaray at the moment. Antonio Conte doesn't want him at Napoli. Marcus Rashford, we know his situation at Manchester United as well. I've spoken about it a lot. So on paper, it would make sense for the two of them just to do a swap. It's obviously not as easy to just do that. But Marcus Rashford has rejected bids from Saudi Arabia because he wants to win back his England place. So a move to another big European league, Serie A, obviously, would give him the chance to do that, a platform to do that. And Antonio Conte is keen on Marcus Rashford. So we'll see whether that might be something that happens. But I think you're going to get a lot of this over the course of January, these sort of wild fantasy sort of transfer deals, which they might be able to pull off, but they might not. But on paper,
Deals are very rare,
very hard to do. But, you know, who knows? We'll see. Yeah. Watch this space.
To bring you this, AC Milan are expected to formally approach Manchester United over the signing of forward Marcus Rashford. Milan advisor and Rashford's former teammate Zlatan Ibrahimovic has spoken publicly about wanting to speak to Rashford about a move. Rashford's camp have spoken to a number of European clubs to explore the conditions of a deal. As it stands, it's believed United's preference remains a straight loan if they are to allow him to leave. Rashford was once again left out of the matchday squad for Sunday's FA Cup third-round tie at Arsenal. Head coach Ruben Amorim saying, "I don't know, we will see," when asked if Rashford had played his final game for the club. While United accept they will have to pay a substantial portion of Rashford's wages, they will look into incentivising the structure to ensure the deal works for them. So I think if anything's clear here, something, whether he stays or whether he goes, whether it's on loan or whether it's permanent, something needs to be sorted. Everything seems to be up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, I think both player and club need that clarity. And I felt when Ruben Amorim come in, I think that was one of our questions. We were saying, can he get the best out of Marcus Rashford? Because I think we all know the qualities that he's got. He showed it when he scored, was it 30 plus one season? So he can do it. He can do it in the Premier League. But it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. I think being sort of an academy product, the scrutiny, the expectation is very much on him all the time. We're very much watching everything that he does. So you feel if it's best for him and for the club, then maybe it is time for a new challenge.
Rashford were to go, Dharmesh, would United bring someone in?
They're looking to strengthen up front by the sounds of it. And they've made inquiries to Paris Saint-Germain for their French international striker, Randal Kolo Muani. And look, this is not something that's just come up in this transfer window because they've got a long-standing interest in this player. Back in the summer of 2023, they scouted Muani extensively. In the end, they opted to go to Atalanta and pay big money to sign Rasmus Højlund. But it's clear that they admire Kolo Muani, and it appears now that Muani is available again because he's only started twice in Ligue 1 this season, and I think PSG will probably listen to offers for Randal Kolo Muani. They would prefer a permanent deal, but like I say, with a big player like that, it's always very difficult to do that, or at the very least try and do a loan which would come with an obligation to buy come the summer. So definitely one to watch, particularly if Marcus Rashford gets a move away.
Michael, if United are in for Muani, will they have to fight for him?
Spurs like him as well. Tottenham want another forward, and Ange Postecoglou said this to us in his press conference yesterday, pre-Liverpool press conference. Spurs will be busy this January. I'm not so sure now about a defender, but I do believe Spurs will sign a forward over the next few weeks.
OK, well, Kobbie Mainoo and Alejandro Garnacho, people are saying, hang on, they're academy players at Manchester United. United might need to sell them. Do they?
Let's make one thing clear. Manchester United do not want to sell Kobbie Mainoo, and they do not want to sell Alejandro Garnacho. They're not actively looking to sell either of those players. However, And I think this is the case with every club. It can't just be pointed towards Manchester United as well. Nobody in the squad is untouchable. Because if you could go to any squad in the country and, not for sale, and then if an outrageous offer comes along, it's going to be considered. So I think that's the case with every single player. As for Mainu himself, we're told he's got no concerns at all over his Manchester United future. He feels valued at the club. His contract is up until 2027, with the club holding a 1-year option on that contract. But they want to reward him because he's been so good for the club. They want to reward him with a new contract on improved terms. Talks have been underway over a new contract, and communication lines remain open. As for Garnacho, he's got a contract that runs until 2028. And one thing I would say as well here, while Manchester United will be confident that they are compliant with profit and sustainability rules, it's clear that they would need to move some players on in order for Ruben Amorim to bring new players in to fit in the style that he wants to play. Remember, Ruben Amorim didn't actually want to join until the summer because he wanted that clean break. But it was now or never as far as United were concerned. So now he's having to learn about these players as he goes along. Hence why I think it will be a slower process. But come the summer, he wants to be in a position where United can actually go for it. But he also knows, and the board know, that homegrown players like Mainu and other players who have come through the academy and been there since they were young boys, they would represent, as we've been talking about many times on this transfer show, pure profit on the books if they were to be sold.
Absolutely.
We are constantly receiving new information surrounding Marcus Rashford. Now, we have an update. The latest is that Manchester United are aware that Rashford's brother and agent are in Milan talking to AC. A number of clubs are expected to approach United formally over a potential deal. United are understood to be discussing internally whether a straight loan or a loan with an option obligation is the best course of action. If indeed they allow him to leave, that is, a permanent departure is likely to be assessed in the summer, with United aiming to raise his market value before then. All options are still open, including Rashford staying at United beyond deadline day. Marcus Rashford's brother and agent have travelled to Italy to hold talks with AC Milan's executives. It's understood Milan want to sign him on loan with an option to buy. I mean, Dan, obviously Milan seem to be the club that are most vocal about their interest in Marcus Rashford, but they're not the only club after him, are they?
Yeah, it feels like Marcus Rashford could be the name of the window so far, couldn't it? I feel like we'll be talking about him quite a lot in this window, but AC Milan seem to be the ones who are making that contact with his agent, as you mentioned there, Dwayne. But in terms of other clubs who are also interested in Marcus Rashford, we're looking at, first of all, the Champions League finalists of last year, Borussia Dortmund, and then also Serie A giants Juventus. Two very interesting other teams, and we can talk about AC Milan in a second. But when you look at Juventus, for example, Thiago Motta is their manager. Very young team, an average age of 24 years old. How would Marcus Rashford fit into a team that's quite young, developing? Borussia Dortmund, of course, finalists last year. We saw Jadon Sancho go on loan there last year, had quite a profitable year. It was also good for United in keeping his market value as well. But AC Milan look now like they're the ones really making an effort to get him on loan with a potential option to buy as well.
Sam, is Milan a good fit for Marcus Rashford?
I think in terms of the pathway, it's worked for them in the last few seasons. We've seen Loftus-Cheek, Tomori go out there as well. And Serie A in general has been good for players that haven't really found their feet in the Premier League, with Lookman now African Player of the Year. We've seen Tammy Abraham, who's now at AC Milan as well. I think it will just be a good move for him, a place where he can find his confidence. The only thing I would say is that their most exciting player is a player that plays in his position. That's Rafael Leao. He's played 23 times this season. He's been in and out of the team in terms of playing consistently. He's only got 6 goals this season, but his last performance against Inter Milan in the Super Cup was incredible. So I think it will add to the competition for AC Milan. They're still 8th at the moment. They're probably going to be wanting to play Champions League football, and that will be a good challenge for him.
OK, let's bring you up to speed with the latest transfer news now. And according to Sky in Italy, another Serie A club have joined AC Milan in the race to sign Marcus Rashford, and that is Cesc Fabregas's Como. The former Arsenal and Chelsea midfielder is the manager and part owner of the club, and they're keen on bringing Rashford to Italy. It's understood that Como would have no issues in financing a deal for Rashford, whose agent travelled to Italy for talks with AC Milan over a potential loan move. earlier this week.
Right, lots of talk about Marcus Rashford's future in this window, and West Ham are the latest club to show an interest in the Manchester United forward. There is an acceptance that it would be an extremely difficult deal to do given Rashford's wages, and the growing feeling is that Rashford is likely to move to a European club if United do sanction a move. That said, West Ham have asked to be kept updated with any developments. It is believed that those two Italian clubs stay in the running, but Rashford's camp will listen to offers from Spain today. AC Milan, they've made it clear to Rashford's agent that he'd have a leading role in the team. Serie A side Como have also expressed an interest and would have no issues meeting the terms of a loan with a percentage of his salary.
Now, could the Zlatan Ibrahimovic effect help his old teammate Marcus Rashford move from Manchester United to AC Milan? Rashford's representatives have spoken to clubs in Italy and Spain over a potential move away from Old Trafford. Former Milan striker Ibrahimovic is currently working at the club in an advisory role. Zlatan played for 2 seasons alongside Rashford as Manchester United won the EFL Cup and Europa League in 2017. And Ibra said this: Rashford, I know him very well. I played with him when he was young. He did great things with Manchester and is one of their players. Everyone wants to play for AC Milan, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Difficult operation. We haven't spoken to him yet. Let's see.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this player. I get the feeling for quite some time. He always seems to feature in transfer windows, and it feels like this is the window where potentially he'll move. Randall Kolo Muani, 26-year-old PSG striker. He's been linked with Manchester United, and he's very much still a player of interest with regards to Manchester United. However, our information is there's been no further contact since their initial inquiry. Now, we know that doesn't mean it's off the table. Could they decide to look at it in the summer if he was still to be available? PSG are open to the move and would like to sell Muani in this transfer window if possible. He's only made 2 Ligue 1 starts this season, 8 substitute appearances. He's not started a Champions League game. Game time has been hard to come by, and you get the feeling that his time in Paris is coming to an end. He has a contract until 2028 at PSG, so they hold the cards with regards to any potential sale or loan. But what I think is really interesting is the fact that since that initial inquiry, Manchester United haven't gone back to the negotiating table to say, hang on, let's have another conversation here, which may lead you to think that someone else in the Premier League, Michael, could be interested.
Yeah, Tottenham, my understanding is, are still interested in the forward. He could play across the whole front three. Spurs looking for reinforcements there. Of course, they've signed Anthony Kinski, and he made a fantastic debut against Liverpool. They've got the goalie they want. People are asking me whether they're going to get a defender in. I think the priority is a forward, and Muani, yes, there is interest.
I don't know. We'll see. He's a player for Manchester United. We'll see. He have to work. He have to represent his club, and he loves his club. But I have to make choices. Already spoke about how I make the choices. So it is what it is. So let's continue. Let's see the next game. And like I said, I have to make a selection. Really important, not just for them, but for all the players. Your life as a footballer has cycles and moments, and sometimes in 1 week your life can change. And you can see Altay. Against Tottenham, everybody was pointing the finger for Altay, and I understand that. And today, he was our hero also. Joshua, a few weeks ago, had a small problem with our fans, and today, every time he's going on the pitch, you feel that the support from the fans, and then he has the last penalty. So the life is like that, and you have to continue humble, to work every day. Your time will come, and so it's really important for them. Not just for them, but for his teammates. The first thing I think is hard. I don't remember to say clearly that I want new players. What I said is that sometimes the profile for this system is different. And the players came here with a different idea how to play. So I don't remember to say that so clearly that I want new players. What I said is that we need to improve recruitment. When we are targeting players, we need to have sure that they will cope with the demands. Sometimes you have to bet a little bit. And what I said also is that we have to improve our academy to bring young kids that feels the club in the right way, and also with that rules we are able to do some business and to have money to invest in the team. Connecting that with the second part of the question, our idea is always to keep the best players and the players that we build for this club. But we know the position that the club is in the moment. We will see, but I'm very happy and I really like our players, especially the guys from the academy.
Just on that then, Ruben, can you say that Kobbie Mainoo, you want him to stay? Is he a United player that you want to keep, therefore?
Yeah, well, my players are always my favourites. So I really love my players. I want to keep my players, especially the talented ones. So, like I said, it's a special moment in this club. It's a hard moment, we will see. But of course, I'm really happy with Kobbie. He's improving, and also with the Gardner.
I think the thing is, you never know. We've seen it recently happen with Sancho. We've seen it happen with Sterling. So it might not be off the cards. Obviously, Rashford is a big Manchester United fan, growing up like that boyhood club. So would he want to go to maybe like an Arsenal? We're here in West Ham. I don't know, but I think there is a possibility there. It's not out of the question. But like Flex said, it's up to the financial side of things as well. Will the Man United hierarchy want him to go to a rival? Or if the finances are right, can he go?
That Arsenal one's really interesting, though.
Yeah.
With what's happened to Jesus.
Can you imagine Sterling and Rashford at Arsenal on loan?
Last minute, dying hours of transfer deadline day. Rashford, do you want to get here? 6 months loan, no obligation. I tell you what, I wouldn't 100% discount her, but I'd just, on a personal, I'd just like to think that Rashford would just want to clean break, get out of the Premier League.
Okay, let's start with that big story, Henry, regarding Manchester United and Kobbie Mainoo in the Times there by Charlotte Dunker. United open to Mainoo's sale. Henry, why on earth would they be open to that?
Very interesting story from Charlotte. I assume it's part of the dance of the deal, and he's not particularly well paid, certainly by Manchester United's stratospheric standards, and he wants a new deal. He should very much be part of Manchester United's future. He's 19, he's an England international, he's been outstanding, he was very good at the weekend, homegrown. He's just the type of player that they should be holding on to, and you see him being linked with a club like Chelsea. He wouldn't get into Chelsea's midfield at the moment. Chelsea need defensive reinforcement. So I hope this is just a sort of contractual dance at the moment, because he needs to stay at Manchester United. They need him, and he's got a path to develop further there.
And United have said, Michael, no player is untouchable, hence why we're talking about Garnacho and Mainoo. If you're a United fan, should that worry you?
A little bit, but you look at Manchester United at the moment and you hear any ex-player, I think there's an acceptance that it's going to take at least 2 or 3 windows for Ruben Amorim. It's clear he's got his own philosophy, but these players don't fit at all. It's been a really tough few years for Manchester United. Yes, they won the FA Cup in May, but maybe that was just one little positive on what's been a really dark year or two in terms of recruitment. But the last thing you'd imagine Ineos wanting to do is selling someone who's been such a bright part of Manchester United over the last 12 months.
Yeah, well, Ineos certainly doing things their own way, aren't they? So you never say never. There is a bright spot for Manchester United today, though, Dharmesh. Tell us.
Yeah, potentially great news this. Ruben Amorim, the Manchester United head coach, said that this particular deal was close, and I'm talking about Amad Diallo and his future. We're told an agreement has been reached between Manchester United and Amad Diallo over a new contract. The formal announcement could come very, very soon. He had entered the final 6 months of his contract. Now, United actually had the option to extend that for a further 12 months, but they decided not to exercise that option, instead enter into talks to give him a new contract to properly reflect the good performances that he's produced for Manchester United, particularly under Ruben Amorim. So it wasn't going to be just a case of extending for another year on the current terms. They wanted to get him a new extended contract on improved terms. And I think everyone has seen, and it's been widely recognised, that Amad Diallo has been effectively Manchester United's best player since Ruben Amorim took charge at Old Trafford. So good reward and probably a deserved reward as well.
Yeah, he's gone really well for United. Believe it or not. Right, I promised you more Manchester United. I'm going to give you more Marcus Rashford. Darmesh, is he any closer to leaving?
Possibly. I mean, what I would say is that Manchester United are aware that Marcus Rashford's brother has been in Milan, just exploring the conditions of a potential loan deal to AC Milan. But look, a number of clubs now are expected to formally approach Manchester United over a potential deal. Milan have made him their primary target for this transfer window. Borussia Dortmund, Juventus are also interested, among a number of other clubs. But just talking about Dortmund, their boss, Nuri Sahin, was asked directly about the potential signing of Marcus Rashford. He said this: anything can happen. It's not as easy as in winter as it is in summer. We'd be prepared to do something, but we'll only do it if it makes us better. We're not going to get carried away. But since then, Sky Germany have kind of poured a little bit of cold water on this by saying that maybe the deal that Dortmund would want probably wouldn't be agreeable to Manchester United, because we do know that any loan deal would require United to pay a substantial amount of the wages that Rashford earns. And even with that, Dortmund may find it a little bit too excessive to be able to pay that much. But look, never say never with that. Sky Germany are just saying at the moment, not so strong with Borussia Dortmund. But clearly Milan is a big target for Rashford. As for United, with regard to Rashford, we understand that they are now discussing internally what the best course of action is. Do they do a straight loan? Do they do a loan with an option or an obligation at this stage? Because they need to weigh up the risks associated with the potential market value come the summer. Because if they just do a straight loan and he performs well, it will send his market value up. If they do a straight loan and he doesn't perform so well, what will that do to the market value? And the in-between stage, if they allow him to leave, is if they put an option price on it now that is probably halfway between what they want and what it is now, then they kind of hedge their bets. But then the gamble is he plays really, really well and they could have got much more money for him. So lots of things to discuss for United. We think that a permanent departure for Rashford will probably be reassessed come the summertime. But all options are still open. And that even means Rashford staying at Old Trafford beyond deadline day. A bit of news from today, their training session, Marcus Rashford wasn't training with the rest of the squad, but I think that was planned because he was ill. He missed the game against Liverpool, and as a result, he had his own individual training session.
Been ill a lot, hasn't he, lately? Michael, tell us why Zlatan Ibrahimovic could be in amongst all of this.
Well, firstly, he's a huge fan of Marcus Rashford's, and he was a fan of his when he played alongside him in the 2016-17 season, and back then he called him England's future. Ibrahimovic is a representative, an ambassador of AC Milan, and clearly speaking highly of him. AC Milan have just come off the back of their Italian Super Cup win. They've got the charismatic Sergio Conceição as head coach now. Some fantastic shots of him in the dressing room with a big cigar, and maybe it's a fresh start for AC Milan and potentially a fresh start for Rashford.
Stevie, let's talk Kobbie Mainoo at Manchester United. And ESPN FC ran a piece, as did a lot of the papers in the United Kingdom, saying that although they don't want to sell, if they were to get rid of either Mainoo or Garnacho, 100% of the sale would go towards the PSR regulations, which would help them down the road. Chelsea were linked with Mainoo. Is this a non-starter, or potentially could you see something like this happening?
Well, there's two things of what I'd like to say. Number one is, to me, Kobbie Mainoo is at his best when his team have the ball or he has the ball. I am not convinced that Kobbie Mainoo is as good without the ball. Defensively, I don't see him making challenges. I don't see him breaking up play. I see him following runners, but unfortunately, he's always seems to be behind them, trying to catch up. To me, he is no dynamic central midfielder that can defend for his team. With the ball, I think absolutely he is quality. He looks cool and calm and collected. But I absolutely have question marks over Kobbie Mainoo when it comes to defending in the middle of the park. In terms of Chelsea, he again, because of that, he doesn't fit what Chelsea want to do. Caicedo and Lavia in particular, you know, getting around the middle of the park, closing things down. Enzo Fernandez, not quite doesn't get around as good as the other two, but certainly does a lot of that. So Kobbie Mainoo doesn't fit the bill in the middle of the park. I think that the Chelsea need or Chelsea have right now. So I don't see it. And again, I'd love to hear what Oggy thinks about Mainoo, because, as I said, I am not convinced this guy can defend.
Well, it's a good point, that, because I think that although Kobbie Mainoo, like you say, Steve, he's very good with the ball, and he does kind of sometimes help the game tick for United, he isn't quick. And I think the one thing that really holds him back is that he's one-paced, and he lets players get away from him. If the game is going in his favour, he's a very good player, Kobbie Mainoo, and he's still only young, but he doesn't have a burst of pace. And I think that will ultimately hold him back from being a kind of a world-class midfielder. I think he doesn't get around the pitch quick enough. But on saying that, if Man United had 20 players that they were willing to sell, he would be 18 or 19 on the list. He's not a player they're looking to sell. The reality is that United have got financial issues right now, and yes, you know, I was going to say in a perfect world, in an imperfect world where they had to sell somebody to get some money in, he would be one they would look to do. But there are lots and lots of players ahead of Kobbie Mainoo, and the reality is he will end up negotiating a new contract. His current deal expires in 2027, and United have an extra option on that. So there's no rush to do a deal with him. But I think there's also an element of this where I think people at United are trying to, you know, dampen expectations on certain players and salaries right now. This isn't the Man United of Ed Woodward. They're not throwing money around on wages and fees. They're trying to be sensible. So if people around Kobbie Mainoo are trying to get a new deal at silly money, this is a message to say ain't going to happen. But I'm with Stevie. I think ultimately, defensively and in terms of mobility, getting around the pitch, he isn't quite there.
Can I just add, just one thing from a Chelsea perspective. I think Chelsea fans need to remember as well, whether they like it or not, and I have my own issues with the situation, and I agree with both the boys. Chelsea are expecting Kendry Páez, the very electric Ecuadorian star, coming in this summer. André Santos as well on loan, who's coming back. Estevao, another great talent as well. Not necessarily the same position of Mainoo, but my point remains. This roster is just going to get bigger rather than smaller, even before Mainoo. To me, Mainoo's best option, if he doesn't stay with Manchester United, is I think he should just go to the Bundesliga, go to a place where maybe can help him grow a little bit at 19 years old. The Premier League might not be the best option right now if he doesn't stay with Manchester United. But from a Chelsea perspective, there's a lot of talent still yet to come at Cobham, and it would just be another waste, I think.
Let's talk about a top-flight English central defender with someone who played in the English top flight as a top defender, Stevie Nicol. Mark Gahey has been linked with Chelsea. We continue that theme. Badiashile, Fofana, both hurt right now. It's Colwill and Acheampong was the latest. Would Gahey to Chelsea make sense? Because obviously those two have got a past.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense. That's absolutely the one spot I think they need to strengthen. I'm not a huge fan of what they have right now. I'm not a huge fan of Fofana. I'm not a huge fan of Tolson. I'm not a huge fan of Disasi either. I think absolutely Chelsea needs strengthening there. And if you look around at what there is, then Gahey absolutely would fit the bill. To me, it seems a little bit of a no-brainer. There's no question he ain't going to be staying at Palace for too much longer. And I think Chelsea 100% need a centre-back. And listen, he's no Franz Beckenbauer, but you know what you're getting. And I think from a defensive point of view, I'll settle for that every day of the week. When I can put a centre-back on the field and I know exactly what I'm going to get from him, then I think it makes sense for Chelsea.
The last one on Transfer Talk this week is Marcus Rashford. Now, if you've already heard this week's podcast of the Football Reporters with Rob, with James and with Ollie, then you'll have heard what Oggie's about to say. But I think it's fair, if you haven't, because you spent a decent chunk of the start of your podcast this week talking about Marcus Rashford and potential landing spots. So please let us know if you heard anything further about where Marcus Rashford may end up if it's not going to be Manchester United keeping hold of him.
Well, there's still a chance that might happen. That may ultimately be the best option for everybody because he's on massive wages. He's a Manchester boy and United need goals. But if he was prepared to get his head down, Marcus Rashford, and work to suit Ruben Amorim, then I think staying there would be the best thing for all concerned. But that's not going to happen. It's quite clear that he wants out. Now, there aren't many options for him. AC Milan are supposedly interested, but I'm not too sure how solid it is because, first of all, the wages would be a problem. Secondly, they've got Rafael Leao and Christian Pulisic who like to play off the left, where Rashford likes to play. He hasn't scored many goals recently. So I don't quite see what the appeal of Marcus Rashford is at 27 with probably the past 18 months he's not performed. So options are limited. Borussia Dortmund is a possibility in the Bundesliga, kind of a Jadon Sancho style loan. But right now, I think the Marcus Rashford camp's a lot of heavy lifting in terms of driving up a market and suggesting there's a lot of interest when the reality is there isn't. If there was, then United would be happy to.
He's not having a great time of it at PSG. He's been linked with Spurs. Would that be a move that would suit both?
It would suit Daniel Levy and PSG's Nasser Al-Khelaifi because they're very good friends. And I think that's what this is. It's just like an amicable situation here. I personally, from a footballing perspective for Tottenham, I don't like it at all. Muani is very talented, but he's very inconsistent. And that's the last thing that Tottenham needs. Another inconsistent player, Exhibit A in Timo Werner. So, I think he's probably a player that probably needs to go to a team that's more secure of who they are and trying to prove himself, as opposed to go to a team where there's a lot of inconsistency, there's a lot of back and forth in terms of the system, and also somebody that's entering a Premier League that he's never played in. So for Levy and Nasser Al-Khelaifi, I'm sure it's great. For everybody else, well, maybe it's specifically Tottenham, I don't like it.